Do you know Pakistan? How they manufacture motorcycle sprockets? They simply use some scrap steel plates and process them with machines from the 80s and 90s to create high-quality sprockets for sale. And one sprocket only costs 2,000 rupees. Right now, this is a manufacturing plant in Karachi, Pakistan. The main raw material in the factory is these scrap steel plates, purchased at very low prices, and then they are maximized for their value. This is the secret of turning waste into treasure in Pakistan. The sorted steel plates are placed on the stamping table. Since the sprocket is a circular steel plate, under the stamping die, it becomes a batch of sprocket blanks. Most of these steel plates are cut into blanks, and they are definitely strong enough. After stamping, the master will organize these blanks. If they can't be used, they will be discarded immediately, because some of these scrap steel plates have deformations and cracks in some areas. After stamping, the cracks become more pronounced. This process is essentially the quality inspection of the blanks. Insert the circular blanks into fixed slots. Through the stamping machine, stamps the center of the blanks again. When installing the sprocket on the motorcycle's rear wheel, the center needs to pass through the fixed shaft so that the sprocket can be mounted on the rear wheel. The cooling holes around the center hole are stamped again. The lifespan of the sprocket is not determined by its solidness, but primarily depends on the quality of the sprocket. So the 4 holes on top do not affect its strength. The surface after stamping is very rough. The master needs to polish the rough edges. After polishing, the sprocket is secured on the lathe to turn the rough edges smooth. It only takes 30 seconds to process one sprocket. At this point, the roughly processed sprocket is placed on this shaft. The top is secured with an oversized nut, because the top size of the sprocket will be processed using a gear hobbing machine. Processing one at a time is a waste of time, so the master processes 20 at once. Since high temperatures are generated during gear hobbing, to prevent overheating and damage to the cutting tool, coolant is used during the process. The sprockets are slowly moved back and forth by the rotation of the gear hobbing. At this point, the processing time for a set of sprockets is at least 1 hour. This is why the factory can only produce 1,000 in a day. The reason why only 1,000 can be produced in a day is because this gear hobbing machine is semi-automated and doesn't require manual intervention during processing. You just need to patiently wait for the processing to finish. It's similar to an assembly line. Next, the removed debris is cleaned with a brush. The purpose of doing this is to prevent the generation of flaws during processing. If a fault occurs, then the entire set of sprockets will be scrapped and the collected debris can be melted down at high temperatures. For sand casting, after processing, the nuts are loosened. The edges of the sprocket teeth are extremely uneven and need to be turned on a lathe. At this point, the sprocket is already formed. You can see that the sprocket is still quite thick. In order to make the 4 fixing holes of each sprocket consistent, the marking points of each hole are stamped. Then drilling is easy with a bench drill. You can drill through directly according to the marking points. Each sprocket has exactly 4 fixing holes. Then, the edges of the holes are polished with a drill bit. Since the surface of the scrap steel plates is rusty, for aesthetic purposes, the surface needs to be polished. So, the motorcycle sprocket, made from scrap steel plates, is now complete. How do you think the master's skills are?